You can't start there. You have to essentially earn your way there. You have to lay the groundwork from the physical capacity standpoint, the mental capacity standpoint, so that you have earned your way to working and diving into the technical capacity. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bondi on Cheer. I am Bondi, and here we have honest conversations about coaching, business, leadership, and long-term athlete development in cheerleading. Today, I want to talk to my athletes, and this will pertain to coaches as well, but I want to talk to my athletes and look at it through their perspective. So let's say I'm an athlete. I just got started in cheerleading, and man, am I excited. I see all those Instagram reels. I see all the clips, all right? All the shorts, all the awesome stuff. I've seen Daniel Bayeski's YouTube channel. They're doing hand skis, holding a girl by her head. You know, they're doing blindfolded stunts. Man, this looks so fun. I'm so excited to do all this stuff. We got to pause. We got to slow down. There's a lot to uncover here, and I'm going to explore the way in which that we should approach cheerleading as an athlete. And coaches, the reason I said you guys could use this is because there's a whole coaching side of this, the way that you should coach your athletes. But athletes, this is how you need to start thinking of your training, because you can take your training and you can take it under your own control. You can control your progress. You can control the rate at which you excel. But it's important for us to understand the foundation there. Now, there's something that I've seen happen in the world of cheerleading and even other sports where athletes are constantly working at their sport. They're in early, they're staying late, but they still end up stuck. There's situations where I see that there's not an effort problem here. There's no lack of drive. There's no lack of effort. The athlete means well. They're putting in everything that they can. They're putting in extra, but they still find themselves coming up short of where they feel like they should be with regard to their goal. And the problem here is that oftentimes I found that we're building on an unstable foundation. And when we don't have a stable foundation, it doesn't matter how many extra reps you're putting in. An unstable foundation means that everything above it is inevitably going to crumble at some point in time. All of that effort without direction, all that drive, all that extra time, all the extra reps without direction will stall you out. It'll stifle your progress. It'll burn you out faster than you'll get burnt out by making progress throughout the journey. So over the years, I've developed what I refer to as the athlete capacity pyramid. This is how we coach. And athletes, this is how you should approach your training. I'm going to walk you guys through what the athlete capacity pyramid is. We're going to go through each tier of the pyramid, and I'm going to explain why it's relevant, what it means to you, and how you can apply it to your training. It's very important that we build in the right order, okay? The first thing that we have on there is physical capacity. Now, this is the foundation of everything, the rest of our pyramid. This is non-negotiable. Here's where we have strength, stability, mobility, and work capacity, all right? And I'm referring to an athlete's capacity here, all right, with regard to strength, stability, mobility, and work capacity. What I like to remind people is that you cannot outskill lack of physical capacity. There's no way around it. You need to have the physical capacity required to keep up with the demand of a skill, whether it be tumbling, whether it be stunting, whether it be a basket, pyramid, you name it. So once we jump into cheerleading, we're so focused on skills and we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to try this, we want to hit that. We have to make sure that we're not jumping in to the technical component, but rather focusing on where we might be lacking in the physical component. The physical capacity matters before the skills even matter. And to answer your question, okay, well, how do I build the physical capacity? Exercise and nutrition. That's why I keep saying it, y'all. That's the foundation of our pyramid, okay? And I know nobody wants to hear it anymore. They're just like, oh my God. But it's the truth. When we have the physical capacity, then we can start working our way up the pyramid. And before you know it, you just live in the technical capacity piece, which we'll get to. And then in turn, our performance is what we want it to be. And the physical capacity component, the training, all of it, like exercise, dieting, it all is beneficial and helps our mental capacity, which is the next step up. So the base layer is physical capacity. It's the foundation. Then one step above that, we have our mental capacity, which sits on top of our physical capacity. Now, I like to call the mental capacity the gatekeeper. Mental capacity is what allows us to access our physical ability. And what I mean by that is, if we have the physical capacity to do something, but we don't believe that we can do that thing, or our brain or minds just see this as something that's outside of our grasp, then we're not going to be able to do it. This is the most difficult one to grasp the concept of, is the mental capacity. I like to use this story. So there's a guy named Roger Bannister. He's a runner. And for the longest time, decades, it was thought that a 4-minute mile, sub 4-minute mile was impossible. like physiologically impossible, okay, that the heart would explode, sustaining such strain. And then Roger Bannister in 1954, somewhere around then in the 1950s, he ran a sub 4-minute mile. He blew psychologists, physiologists, everybody was like, well, hold on a second, that's supposed to be impossible. And the point that I'm making there with that story is if we don't have the mental capacity, if we don't think something is possible, if we don't believe in ourselves enough, if we don't think we can do it, it doesn't matter the physical capacity. You won't be able to do it. And everybody thought it was impossible. So for decades, people didn't think it was, they probably weren't even trying because they didn't think it was possible. And then you got Roger Bannister, who just comes along and he's just like, I can do it, you know? Mental capacity, all right? Roger Bannister had some excellent mental capacity. So mental capacity is essentially the athlete's ability to control emotional regulation, arousal, productive self-talk, positive self-talk, execute under pressure, and regulate attention, okay, or focus attention. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, you might have it physically, but do you have access to it? And that's the mental capacity. Now, what we do about this is a little bit more nuanced. There are things that we can do that have been shown to work in psychological research, and that would be simulating different scenarios. Routine and structure in training alone helps with our self-confidence. It helps with our ability to regulate our emotions. That structure gives us a lot of ability to grow mental capacity. So that's one thing we can do as an athlete, is structure our training, structure our week, structure our days, so that we have that structure and we're able to tolerate more, emotionally speaking. We have more bandwidth. I'm pretty sure Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day, like same t-shirt, same pants, same everything, because it saved him mental energy. And Daniel Kahneman writes a book called Thinking Fast and Slow, where he explains the difference between system 1 and system 2 thinking in our brain. We have sort of gut reaction thinking, and then we have slower, more methodical, thought out thinking. And that thinking takes a lot of energy. The brain uses more glucose than any other organ in the body. So the more mental effort something requires, the more tired we get. And when we have structure and we have routine, then we're able to save that mental capacity to be able to use towards other components or other things that have to do with our training. So in a sense, routine helps increase mental capacity just by increasing our bandwidth, our ability to handle different tasks. So having a good hold on mental capacity allows us to move into the next category, which is technical capacity. Now, this is where everybody wants to be right away, right when they jump into cheerleading. It's the technical capacity. It's what people bring in new coaches for. It's what people hire third-party coaches for. It's what people, camps and clinics and workshops and all of it, private lessons. Everybody wants the technical capacity because that's what coaches have. They have the technical capacity to share. That's what a good coach has, right? But a good coach also understands that we need to coach from the bottom up. We need to build a foundation so that the athlete has the physical and mental capacity to take the technical corrections and capacity and actually build it, right? It has somewhere to sit on top of it. It has structure below it, so that we're able to sustain this technical capacity, and that we're not going to have some sort of crack or weakness that takes our technical capacity and makes it ineffective. So the technical capacity is that sports-specific layer. This coaching model, really athlete capacity model, goes for any athlete in any industry or any sport, but obviously we're talking about cheerleading, and this is where we start to get sports-specific. So for cheer, we have shapes, speed, pressure, timing, and placement. Those are the 5 technical layers that I like to refer to when I am coaching something, technically speaking. Normally, it can fall into one of those 5. And that's where we kind of get lost in the weeds and things, because we're trying to coach these very technical, very complex components of cheerleading. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, athletes are falling short on the physical or mental capacity. And it makes that getting lost in the weeds irrelevant and ineffective. So the way that I like to think about the technical capacity is that you can't start there. You have to essentially earn your way there. You have to lay the groundwork from the physical capacity standpoint, the mental capacity standpoint, so that you have earned your way to working and diving into the technical capacity. And that looks different for everybody. So some people might be there, some people might need more work on that, but some athletes come with that because of other sports or whatever. And that's another thing. I don't want to get lost in the weeds here. But while talking about this, if athletes come into a sport and they're young, parents, coaches, parents said they're young athletes, you're young. If I'm 12 and I think that I want to do cheerleading for the rest of my life, but I might not I might be doing other sports and my parents can see that like I seem a little more invested in these other sports. Whatever sport I'm doing, especially as a young athlete, if I can focus on building my physical and mental capacity, then I haven't wasted any time. If I want to be a cheerleader and I get involved in cheerleading for a year and all I learn is how to properly place my hands in a round off or how to properly jump into a back handspring position, like these things are useful in a sense, I guess, in some other sports. But imagine if I was an athlete in cheerleading and for the first year I was building my physical and mental capacity with some technical knowledge, of course, but for the most part, I laid a really good physical and mental capacity foundation. I can take that and go to any sport so that I'm ready for the technical knowledge. And I think that's what's so important to understand about maximizing your use and efficiency of your time spent in cheerleading as an athlete. So within the technical capacity framework, we have like a little branch, and that is the learning process, okay? We take a constraints-based approach to learning. All right, so CLA, constraints learning approach, or constraints-based learning approach. We need to make sure that we're going through the technical process properly, and that's what makes a good coach. A lot of this can seem super granular and irrelevant, and like we're making it deeper than it is, but it's not. It's like if somebody were to say, "Hey, it's just making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's not that deep." You're like, "Yes, that's correct. It's not that deep." However, if somebody were to go into the pantry and take a single slice of bread out and put it onto the counter, and then go get the jelly and take it out, and then go back to the pantry and grab another slice of bread out and set it down on the counter, then go get the peanut butter, then a knife, then we get a plate, then we put one piece of bread on the plate, then we go grab a napkin, then we put the second, you'd be like, okay, yes, you're gonna end up with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and yeah, I guess to each his own, it's not that deep. But our jobs as coaches is to get an athlete from A to B in the most efficient, pragmatic way possible. And that would mean being efficient with our time, being smart with our resources. So the way that we approach the technical layer, the technical capacity layer, and the application of it is first and foremost capacity. Can an athlete do it? And this is obviously our physical and mental capacity. But then we have to look and go, okay, what's the perception component? So we have capacity, then we have perception. Do they understand this? Do I understand this, the task at hand? What's the problem here that I have to solve? So after perception, do I understand the task here, the skill at hand, or the problem that I need to solve? We need to set constraints around it. This is an extremely important piece of learning. So instead of telling an athlete that they need to specifically do XYZ, instead of coaching the skill directly, what we're going to do is we're going to set constraints around them. We're going to tell them, for example, that their hands need to be down 1, right? Their feet down on 2, right? Hands again on 3, feet on 4. That we need to be reaching for the ceiling as if we're trying to grab onto the rafters, right? We want to start to set the environment so that their body starts to intuitively understand, like, what am I trying to do here? What are my constraints? We can't throw our tuck low, right? We also can't release a skill early. We need to set the constraints so that we're trying to operate within the right parameters. Even if we don't fully understand the technique behind it, we understand the constraints here. We have to move quickly. So that means saying we need to be down on 1, up on 2, right? So it's fast. You don't even have to say go fast. You set the constraints by giving them counts as an example. After our constraints, we have exploration, okay? The exploration is trial and error. This is where we let an athlete just explore, right? They need to intuitively start to figure out what should it look like? How should it feel? Right? And our body starts to make those adjustments. And that's where we actually learn better ways to do things by being able to adjust in real time, right? We're dealing with something that is inherently different every time, whether it's a stunt, whether it's a tumbling pass. It's not always going to be the same exact down to a minute level of detail. Right? There's always going to be something that's a little bit different, whether the weight shifts back, it stands a little faster, it goes forward, maybe sideways, one arm goes faster, we shift, we turn, whatever, right? Or a floor surface might be different. It might sometimes punch harder, it might not. Like, there's so many different confounding factors here that we need to be able to understand the task as a whole inside those constraints so that we can then figure out in real time how to make adjustments to still to still operate within those constraints that we have, right? So after we've let them explore, we need to give them some feedback. And this should just be simple guidance, right? We should just say, hey, next time I want you to make sure that we are staying on our count, okay? That we are actually trying to touch our elbows to finish our toss. Or we're standing up on 3, we really need to try to stand up on 2. That's simple feedback. You're standing up on 3, stand up on 2. Okay, got it. You don't need to understand the sport, the skill, any of it to be able to say, okay, up on 2, not 3. Got it. Once we have started giving the simple guidance and an athlete is getting a little bit more of a defined path in the way they're doing something, a little more understanding, that's when we can actually give them technical corrections. And that's what we call refinement. So this is where we're refining the technique that they're using. We've let them discover it by themselves, by giving them constraints so that they naturally, their body feels it, sees, and starts intuitively putting together the pieces of this puzzle. Then we start to come in and say, okay, here's a specific technical correction that I can give you so that you can start focusing on that, given that intuitively the rest of the skill your body understands. So now that we are just doing it, all right, it's more muscle memory. We understand what we're doing. Now this piece of technique that I'm giving you, this very specific piece of refinement, you can apply, and it's going to be relevant. The problem with where athletes and coaches approach their training is that they jump right to refinement. Tell me specifically what I need to do. It's like, okay, but that's not where we're at. Like, we need a little bit more exploration first, okay? What you need right now is some simple guidance. If I just overload you, it gets frustrating. They start to get burnt out. They don't understand. They start doing things that aren't intuitive. They start executing skills in a way in which they wouldn't because they're just getting overly focused on the technical correction. So let's not jump to our coaches, athletes. It does not help anybody. All right, so I want to bring this all home now. Athletes, coaches, performance is a lagging indicator of everything that exists below it. So in our athlete capacity framework at the top, we have performance. We don't coach performance, okay? We coach everything else: physical, mental, technical capacity. Performance is the outcome, all right? It shows us that we either have a good solid foundation in our physical, mental, and technical capacity, or we don't. And what we want to do is we want to build ourselves from the bottom up, and we want to essentially troubleshoot ourselves from the top down. So performance is off. Okay, is it a technical issue? What part in the technical chain is it, right? Is it that I'm being overly technical? Am I losing my intuitive ability to feel this out? Have I not explored enough, right? Then we can go, is it mental capacity, right? Am I not able to access my technical and physical capacities, right? Which is what the mental capacity does. It's a gatekeeper. If you are, that's all good. Then we look at the mental or the physical capacity, right? Do I have the physical ability to do this? Can my body keep up with the demand that this skill requires? That's how we want to use this athlete capacity pyramid, okay? When all of these things align, performance takes care of itself. And that's the best part about approaching our training this way, is that we typically see the best performance because everything is in a line. So if you're one of those athletes, or if you're one of those coaches that's working or helping with an athlete, I'm going to do a little bit more of a coach breakdown in the next podcast video or one of the future podcast episodes. If you're one of those athletes that struggles with this, just make sure one thing. If you feel stuck, don't work harder. Okay, pause and ask yourself, what am I building on? Because chances are we just have a faulty foundation. And we have a lot of resources coming out on how to build that physical capacity. We're going to have more resources on how to build that mental capacity. And then, of course, our resources exist for the technical capacity, like the hybrid library. We have tons of more things that will be going into that, okay? Where we coach is the technical capacity, the hybrid library, hosting events here at Hybrid Jacks, the gym where we coach with teams, classes, privates, all of it. Don't get burnout, athletes. Don't just spin your wheels. Take a smart approach to training. Start at the bottom, lay that foundation, build your way up. Performance will take care of itself. All right. Hopefully you guys took something away from this video that was helpful. Again, thank you for listening to yet another podcast. I hope to see you all in the next one. Until then, be safe, work hard, and see you guys very soon.